This is Andrea. He's a friend and a past client and also the owner of Studi Ocra in Dumbo, Brooklyn, New York, a design firm that specializes in residential design and ground up construction as well as interiors. They do really, really wonderful work, and also we have a client that we are sharing together. I actually helped Matteo and Rebecca find their home. It was a pretty long search to find the perfect place, but we found it together, and it's a really nice townhouse corner unit with parking in Bed-Stuy, and it needed some work. That's where Andrea and his firm come in.
Yeah, it was an interesting project because initially when Matteo and Rebecca approached us, the intention was a light renovation. And so when we start doing our research on the property, and at that point we really discover what the whole potential was for that house, and really became a full gut renovation. And so we're really renovating the entire house, top new floor, that it will be the primary suite for this new owner. And it was an interesting, very interesting evolution of that project.
Well, I think one of the cool things specifically about this house, and I mentioned it before, is that it's a corner lot. Those are very, very special because you get light on all three sides. Yes. Another thing about this house, as I mentioned, is it has a parking space, which is really very hard to find. The only way that you really see return just from a New York sales perspective is when you go full Monty with it. And you really almost can't afford not to do it correctly.
Right.
And the two elements that I think are the most important with this house, the fact that it's a corner, the fact that there's parking, renovated correctly, the return can almost be above the average price per square foot for something like that because it's so unique, right? Like the corners are only going to exist on 4 townhouses on a block that could have 50 townhouses.
Yeah.
So you really do have to do it correctly.
Yeah. And in general, for this project, but in general for all our projects, we really focus on quality, and we really try to help our client to go through the design process and believe in the design process. And I think that leads to really every detail is designed and thought through. And it's important, and you're gonna see it, the end result, where all that process and the time and the effort was put in at the end. And so I think the quality, if you do it right, the quality is shown, and people really understand and see that value.
Were there any themes or non-negotiables that your clients brought to the table that kind of ended up taking over the renovation or the...
It's a great question. The approach was always that they came with their wants and needs, and we like to kind of go beyond that and give our client, something that is more than what they are thinking that they want and needs. And so in this case, originally we were trying to compact a full townhouse for a family in the original building. And of course, when we had that additional floor, the whole dynamic changed. For them was very important in terms of layout and program of a primary suite that is felt very luxurious, and like bathroom and their daily routine is very important for them. And so that's why we put at the very top the primary suite in that case. So it's very large, there's a lot of closet, and so their needs at the beginning really bloom with that additional space. In terms of aesthetic, because there was not really worth saving details in the original house, we were able to transform and adapt and tailor their aesthetic to the house. I think we're very proud of what the theme is about arches. They're very fun. They like arches, and so through the design process, we really try to incorporate small detail and softness to the space with this arch theme that is not overwhelming. It's moment in various parts of the house that you understand what the theme and the arches, that this family really liked the arches as a concept. And that I think came out really well. You know, we'll see the final product in a few months, but that was very interesting to put into this project.
Are there any other features with the home that you're particularly proud of that you're incorporating?
It's a very soft, minimal, but has a hint of traditional that gives the overall house the character of a typical townhouse, but we're not recreating or mimicking late 1800s detail. And so I think the connection between the more contemporary and minimal and the historic flair of the design is really nice. He gives you a homey feeling, but it's sophisticated and you know, by hand. So that was something that we're really proud of.
Budget conscious buyer that wants to do a renovation, especially now the costs might be going up with all these tariffs.
Of course.
What would you say is like the most important thing to focus on that will bring you the best return, both either value-wise and just make a client happy
right.
overall?
It's very interesting because I think there is every aspect of the house, of course, is important. But for some client, and we've done a few projects in that respect, that the budget is somewhat limited, and we want to focus on something specific. I think there is, at least to us, there is a couple of things that is important that really transform a space. And first of all, I think is lighting. There's a lot of people that underestimate how lighting can transform a space. When it's designed in a correct way and also around what the space is and especially furnishing is, really can transform and make the space really coming out and in an interesting way. The other aspect that to me makes it a big jump is cabinetry. You know, when you walk into a space and a cabinetry is well designed, the whole room take another sort of feeling to it. And so these are the two aspects that I think, if the budget is limited, if somebody focuses on that stuff, it really changes the feeling of the space.
I totally agree. I think there's a great saying that lighting is the jewelry of a home, and I believe that. I've seen literally white boxes with just very extravagant pieces of lighting equipment and just a chandelier, and it just totally makes the room, and everyone feels like, wow, and this looks expensive, but really it's just the lighting that you're looking at. With the cabinetry, I see a common theme whenever I walk with a buyer, things that you touch, light switches, handles, fixtures, those kind of things that you just interact with on a daily basis, or just even walking through a space with a buyer. A lot of times, they go to open a door and then they feel that like heavy duty handle. Those things register and connect them with someone.
And I think also those are the areas that gives you the opportunity to do something special and to really put in terms of textures and the overall feelings, versus other part of the area that to make it that special needs a lot more work and investment. So I think those areas really makes it a difference when you really focus on it.
Completely. The other thing I would say that I've seen that makes a big difference is flooring. If you're going to skimp on something, don't skimp on the flooring. It just registers the space as 70 or 80% of the space.
Yeah.
And I've seen okay windows, okay caskets, okay everything, and then all of a sudden just the floors pop. And that's another little kind of cheat code to interior design that I noticed.
It's true. It's one of the largest surfaces you have in your home. So you walk on it, you feel it. You have kids, they're playing on the floor. So you really are in contact with the floor a lot. And I think having a good flooring and that fits both in width of the planks, if we're talking about wood, or in general tile, if there's a pattern that is interesting, that define the rooms. There's a lot of ways to really work with the flooring to make it special. And these are the things that when we have clients come to us, we're saying, let's talk about it. What is your feelings? What do you need? What are your vision? How you want to feel? And through our creative ways, we present them what is the story about that house can say. So it's an interesting way, and there's a lot of way to do it too.
How would your design input change from a brownstone to, let's say, an apartment?
That is an interesting question, and I think our approach in general is about looking at the space as it is, understanding the history and the heritage of the space. Mostly for brownstone and townhouses, when we're lucky, there are some details that are historic details that are worth preserving, and it really kind of changes the perspective, for instance, compared to mid-70s or more recent buildings. And so what we do is really trying to understand what is worth preserving and keep it and highlight them. And then all the inserts are new, so we're not replicate anything in terms of in style. And so I think you understand the difference between what is old, what is new, and I think it both elevates the historic and the more contemporary part in a very nice way. When we work on more recent or more contemporary apartments, our approach is usually more soft, minimal, and contemporary. In general, we tailor the project around our client, and so of course there is difference in layout when it's a townhouse versus an apartment, but in terms of interior design, that's our approach.
I've noticed that with a townhouse, there's this need to keep traditional elements into it, whereas with an apartment renovation, you can go super modern and blow it out of the water. Yeah. You can go super traditional, blow it out of the water. But because especially in a place like Bed-Stuy, where a lot of these are arts and crafts, 1850s homes, it almost feels, I don't want to say negligent, but it feels irresponsible to not preserve something and make it into this modern thing. So I always feel like there's this push and pull between keeping and modernization.
Yeah, and I think it's every time that is the battle and the challenge, and I think the opportunity to do that and understand what is worth. Because of course, the interesting part is also those houses has a layering of during their 200 years life, they went through layers of renovations, and so it's interesting to understand where is the point where you want to bring it to, or really just add the next layer of our contemporary layers to add to the history. And so I think that is an approach. I think it's very sort of European approach of renovations, that you want to highlight what's the beauty and what the history of that house is, and add your own opinion and aesthetic to it. And I think it's the way to elevate really the space when you have this difference.
So what design trends do you see going out, like for 2025, and something new that's coming in?
Of course. I think what is going out is this hyper maximalism, like pattern on pattern, like busy rooms. I think they were very, very on trend for the past few years. And we see going a step back and have more curated spaces, few items, but with quality and interest.
So back to minimalism.
I wouldn't say minimalism, but it's because I think a lot of people think that minimalism is very cold. What I think is still the warmth and the interest and the particular and details, but it's less overwhelming. So I think that is kind of transitioning a little bit in that respect. What I think is coming in more that we've seen is, because we spend so much time indoor, And besides the aesthetic of it that is important, I think the knowing what you are putting in your house in terms of what is the quality and what is the effect on your health, what would those materials do, it's important. And so people are asking questions, is it as chemicals that is going to release and my kids are breathing, is it this paint important, is it good paint or bad paint, all these things. I seen clients asking more questions about it, and I think it's important that people sort of understand. And a little bit of a tangent on that, we see more and more people that want to have an approach on cruelty-free materials. And all this thing together, I think, is elevate again how people live their spaces and their houses. So I think it's something that we see more and more, that people ask questions about. What is in this product? Is it good for my health? Is it kind of breathing in this room safely? Is my kids are going to be safe playing on this floor? So all those things, I think, people are more aware of it and they're asked more questions. I think this is really a good thing.
Another thing, I wouldn't say this is a 2025 trend, but I've noticed that we've seen a huge migration from Manhattan to Brooklyn for almost a decade and a half. But now we're starting to see the upper echelon, the $5 to $10 million bracket, which is something that's, I would say, very, very new, like 2 years. And those buyers are so used to luxury buildings with,
for sure,
high-end amenities. And then they're moving into brownstones, which are the opposite. It's low-end amenities. So I think it's a designer's, job to add those amenities, obviously, with Peloton. A lot of this is post-COVID, really.
Right.
But the downstairs basements being on the above 7 million being converted into spas and gyms and things like that. Even poker rooms and that kind of stuff. That
for sure.
Normally a buyer would go and it would be a place downstairs for that.
Right. No, and we definitely see, in terms of programming, this demand, and I think it relates a little bit for what I just said, that people want to have their own space for wellness and to take care of their mind and body, and it's important for them to have it really, really available in their house. We had a moment where home office was the big deal. Yeah. I think we've seen that transition in more flexible rooms where more activity can be done, and so definitely in terms of programming, those are things that we see more and more in townhouses. But even small items like having a dedicated area for a coffee station, or like somebody that into cocktails, having a dedicated bar with a small lounge area. Those are things that people were not really paying attention much in the past, and this is more and more tailored to your hobbies, to your passion. So this is a good thing, I think, in the house.
I know you're installing since they have a master suite upstairs, and it's got outdoor space and a really large bathroom and a huge walk-in closet, and you're also allocating a little kitchenette up there for coffee and water and stuff. It's
their
cool. Morning
routine. They, we talked it through what would make it more special than a normal or your current house. And we came out with this idea of a small little coffee station that, as simple as it is, it just makes your day better.
Yeah. If you have house guests, you don't have to leave the bedroom. And I know this from my business, clients are either in the weeds or they're out of the weeds. They either want you to take over and get everything done, or they want to be part of every single detail. And I'm curious, what is your ideal client?
So I would say we like when clients are involved with the process.
So do I, but yes, go on.
Our ideal client is, we work a lot with first-time buyers, and that they're not really expert through the process of renovation. And we're very happy to walk them through. But our core sort of needs for our client, and that is very important to us, is that they are committed to the design process, because I think the end result comes from the very early stages, and if someone rush it or don't kind of care, I think the result is not as good as it could be. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing is for us that our clients are passionate about how they're going to live their house, what they like and what their feelings, and how the environment that they live every day is going to be, and they invest the time and effort, because it takes time to do this. And those allowed us to really present options and ideas of how to elevate that experience and that everyday living. So to us, that's very important for working with a successful project with a successful client.
When are you anticipating completion of the project?
Being a larger project, sometimes the timeline fluctuates a little bit, and we're very happy how this is progressing, and we have a great team working. The general contractor, I would say, is fantastic. Really, really careful about details. We're expecting, to be on time for end of fall, and for them to move in before the holidays.
Are you happy with the way everything came out so far?
Yeah, no, I would say the general contractor is really focusing on what design intent is, and when we found the synergy between the designer and the general contractor, the outcome is always superb.
Great. So we're going to walk through the space, and you'll give us a walkthrough.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
Can't wait to see it. And right now it's really rough. We're dealing with the roughing, but the sheetrock is going to be going up shortly, and maybe we'll even check in at a later time and see how things are progressing.
That would be fantastic.
All right.
All
great.
right, thanks.